In this video, we're going to look at topic 89, example 3, evaluate expressions with rational exponents. So in part A, evaluate the expression 32 to the 3/5, 27 to the negative 2/3, and 50 to the 3/4. So we'll go through these one by one. So let's look at 32 to the 3/5 power. There are a couple ways that you could type this either into the calculator or write this out and figure out the work. But what we're going to do is we're just going to practice converting these into radical forms and then practice using the calculators with them. So what we'd like to remember is that the denominator becomes our index. The base would be our radicand, and then we can put that 3 as our exponent on the outside. Remember that you could also write this as the 5th root of 32 cubed, but I'm going to put the 3 on the outside just because I want to avoid creating pretty large numbers. But both methods will work. It is up to you which one you use. So now using the calculator, we're going to go to our math function, option number 5, and we're going to take the 5th root of 32. The more you do these, the more familiar you'll get with, it's a lot of the same numbers kind of used pretty frequently. So you'll start to get familiar with these, and kind of like your multiplication tables or your addition facts, you won't really need to use the calculator. You'll just start to know that the 5th root of 32 is 2. So we would have 2 raised to the 3rd power, and we're going to do that, which again, 2 to the 3rd power you should be able to do by hand or in your head, but come out to be 8. So we have an 8. That's it. Part A, evaluating that expression would give us 8. In the second example, 27 raised to the negative 2/3 power, you want to use that negative 2 with the exponent. You want to use the negative with the exponent of 2. So I'm going to take an index of 3, a radicand of 27, and then I'm going to put that negative 2 on the outside as my exponent. All right. You don't really want to make an index negative. You really shouldn't be doing that at all. So take that negative, put it on the exponent on the outside. So let's take the cube root, which again we should be familiar with, but if you're not, just practice on the calculator. Cube root of 27 gives you 3. And now we have 3 raised to the negative 2nd power. So we're going to do 3 raised to. Be careful, depending on the calculator, you might have some parentheses, and make sure you are using the negative symbol, not the subtraction sign. So 3 to the negative 2nd. We don't want to use decimals, so we're going to hit math and convert that to option 1, a fraction. So hit enter twice, and we would get 1/9. And finally, we have 50 to the 3/4 power. Now this one's going to be a little bit different. The setup is the same. So we take the 4th root of 50 raised to the 3rd power. And if I go to my calculator and I try to take the 4th root of 50, I'm going to get a decimal. It doesn't work out perfectly. 50 is not a perfect 4th root. So what we're going to do is we're just going to estimate or round our number. I'm not going to write this part down. I'm going to do the next step in the calculator and just write one step. So what we want to do is one of the things that is helpful with the calculator is, since I need to use this number 2.659 and so on, and I need to raise it to the 3rd power, what you can do is you can actually just hit the caret symbol and see how it automatically says ANS. That's taking the answer from the previous problem, so that 2.659. And now I can raise that to the 3rd power, hit enter. Oops, didn't mean to hit enter twice. Let's delete this one. So we get 18.8. And that could just be an approximation, so we're going to say approximately 18.8. Right, don't stress yourself out too much about the decimals and how many decimals you should go to. Usually it'll tell you, in this problem it does not, but 18.8 is fine for us. One of the other things that you want to kind of get familiar with the calculator is if I actually scroll up and say select that 2.65, if I hit enter on it, the calculator is automatically going to type it in for me. So sometimes if you have a number that you need from a couple steps before, especially long decimals that you don't want to type in, just go highlight them. All right, and if you hit enter on them, it'll pull that number for you. It'll save you a lot of time. So again, if we raise that to the third power, we get the number that we're looking for. And do notice that these numbers are slightly different, right? That's just a rounding kind of issue, but they're close enough where, since we're approximating, we are okay. All right, done with part A, let's look at part B. So the Fujita scale rating F of a tornado is replaced by this formula, represented by this formula, where W is the estimated wind speed of the tornado in miles per hour. What is the Fujita scale rating of a tornado with estimated wind speeds of 100 miles per hour? So let's rewrite our formula using 100 as our W. This problem really just gives us good practice using the calculator. We're obviously not going to do this by hand. Be far too much work. So let's use the calculator and go step by step. I would start with 100 divided by 14.1. I get this number here. Now, I'm not going to write all this out on the paper because I'm not going to write all those decimals. Now, I want to take that number and I want to square it. So I'm just going to hit the caret symbol and then square that number. Which, remember, A and S takes the previous answer. So we'll hit enter. I get 50 point, and so on. We then need to take the cube root of that, right? Because that's going to be that number that we have there is basically this whole piece inside. So go to your math function, go to option 4, cube roots, and now I want to use the answer. So I have two choices. I can either go up and highlight this and hit enter, or let's say, actually, let's just go with that. We're just going to go up and hit enter, and then we take the cube root. So we get 3.69, and don't forget that we want to subtract 2 from that. So we would do that, and we get approximately 1.69. Now that tells us that this is classified as an F1 storm. And that's it. So just be familiar with the steps that you need to take using the calculator. Don't rush through these steps. Understand that you can scroll up and pull the numbers from previous steps into the current step that you're working on. Your other option to pull answers is if you hit second and then you go down to the negative sign, it'll pull the answer from the previous part. But really with these calculators, it just makes a whole lot more sense to just highlight it and hit enter. It's much simpler. That's it for topic 89.3.